Hey, Ethan, I keep thinking that we should give our students an early win. Why do you think it's important?
Okay, nowadays students, based my opinions alone, is that nowadays the students are their attention span is really short. Not just me, all the tutors are talking the same things. So we need to make them excited all the time so that if they win and they can always come back or they can show to their partners, or maybe this is the social media time, so maybe they post their works on the social media or something they can proud of. So I think to answer the question short, early wins is important for this generation of the student. Unlike our time, it's we are all the process are longer. We can do it. We are patient, but nowadays the students are they want it. They go straight to the point. They want it. Ali win. I got what I want. Done. And they, I think that's more appropriate with the age of I mean the current trend of the students. I think it will be they need it. They deserve it. So that's why they need Ali win. That's what I think.
I was going to say that we all need an early win. When we
Mhm.
remember that the course is 2 years of really hard work, and that what we need to do is we need to make sure the students feel like they're making progress. So I was listening to a guy teaching gym work. He's an author who helps people build gymnasiums, and he said that you need to give someone, if you're going to teach someone how to lose weight at the gym, you need to give them an early win so that they feel good straight away. You help them drop a couple of pounds in the first week. Hey, they feel like they've really made some progress. They can see themselves making progress. A 2-year course, because, our diploma is 2 years long, that if we
Mhm.
don't start giving the student a win really early, they'll just think, oh, this is a slog. I don't know if I can keep up with this.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I like the way you talk the analogy with Jim and the architectural students. Yeah, based on I saw that some students they have no idea what they are doing, that they feel like, oh. Another thing I found was that architectural students they have no patience to learn, for example, like contracts or some business part of it. They think like, oh, what is it gonna do with us? Even though. So yeah,
Yeah.
people are their interest is different, but
I mean,
yeah,
I
it's
used to
we have to be aware of that. The early win is important, and
I used to
every.
teach the contract management course, and
Mhm,
some
mhm.
of the students just could not understand why they were learning that stuff. And that's a whole nother topic. We should cover that in
Yes,
another
yes,
topic,
and
because
also
I used
and
to.
also other students are other peoples are also talking about the business part of architecture, and our focus is mainly on the architectural technologies.
So
That's
I mean,
understood.
the way that I see the early win is important is last week we were talking about the manual drafting, and I said I use the block of wood, and in the very first session we do manual drafting, they can complete a drawing to a high quality, and that's an early win for the student to make them feel that they've learned something, that they're
That's
making
right.
progress in their course.
Mhm,
And then
mhm,
when I teach them the Archicad, um, instead of teaching them, and I used to do the same thing when I taught Vectorworks as well, and that is you give them an early 3D win. Now, first of all, of course, you've got to explain where the tools are, and you've got to
mhm,
explain the interface, because you can't talk about that without it. But the very next thing I like to do is to build a 3D model.
mhm,
In Archicad, I like to build a simple house, the same simple house that they drew in the 2D drawing, in the manual drawing part of the course.
mhm,
They model a 3D house in Archicad, and you can model this house in about 10 minutes.
mhm.
You don't need to know too much about architecture to model a building in Archicad and to generate some drawings. And so for me, that's another example of an early win where you've taught the student how to draw a building, and now they come away, I've only been here for a week and I can draw a building. Could you believe that? And
Yeah,
then
that's exciting, isn't it? That's for a young
is it,
student.
and it's so exciting for them. It boosts confidence. It keeps them interested. Um, and so the other thing, of course, is that we're going to introduce the students to this concept of building information modeling,
Mhm,
which is a long process. There's a lot of detail involved in it. And what we don't want to do is to give them. I've actually got a book here, which is the BIM Handbook by Chuck Eastman,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes about 200 pages before he gets to the first picture.
Yeah.
No wonder I couldn't read the thing, because it's not made for me to read. Whereas if we give an early win to a student, there's no early win in that book. You start reading it, and it's just, where's the picture? Because I need a picture.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. Even you read the book, also you get the win.
So I love this little. I love this little Archicad house. I call it my quick start to Archicad, and it's only, I wrote a manual. It's like 13 pages long or something, and in that manual they learn to put foundations in, to put walls, floors, roof, how to adjust the roof, how to create elevations. And I used it last year. I think was the first time I used it, and at the end of the year I still saw students with an A4 printed copy of it, flicking through it, remembering how to do tricky stuff. That's my theory, is to give them an early win.
Yeah, and make them excited, and that's go all the way, to the end, like what you mentioned, like from day early win, and it will be useful. If they find it useful, they will use for the whole life. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people teach the Archicad by doing lots of 2D exercises. I mean, if you ever want to turn a student off, that's the quickest way to turn them off. It's dry, it's boring, there's no connection to what if you want to teach the student how to use the multiply tool, then draw joists and multiply the joists, because that way it connects to what they're doing. It allows them to remember why they're doing it, what the tool is used for. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I think that we need to make sure that when we use the tools, we use them in context with where they're being used.
Yeah. And while we were talking about, we talked about last week and this week, I just noticed one thing from you, which is that when you teach, even whether be it for 2D or whether be it or 3D or BIM, what I learned from you is it must be relatable for the student, right? Because it must, they must know. Okay, for example, like from day one, the way you told me is using the block. That means they can relate to the end product, right?
Yeah.
So end products, and they know they have consciousness, and they know what they are doing. They see what the end product look like, and they transfer it to the paper, and that kind of things. And what happens is that they have a satisfactory of what they got it, and they can proudly show, and they also have a certainty, right? Because it's the first day they start doing one-on-one drawings. So that's an early win for them. After that, what you mentioned was that go back and then getting more and more advanced using skills, and go to CAD tools, BIM tools, and they start realizing and seeing the reality, and they have an abstract concept and the reality, and they can relate well. I think that's being able to relate is also an early win. Early win, if I understand correctly. Do you agree with that, or what do you think?
I think that the student doesn't see that as an early win. They don't see the relationship. They don't see that we're using these things in context. They just they see what we're doing, and they understand it, but they don't realize how much thought we put into making it work for them, so that they could then see those tools in the right context. Because I just don't think they see enough. I mean, I guess I think of the architectural technologists. We're trying, if we use that analogy of the gymnasium again, we're taking the old, I don't remember Charles Atlas, but we're taking the 98-pound weakling, and we're trying to build them into a muscular frame. We're trying to take a small person and build lots of muscle on that person, lots of architectural technological muscle. We're trying to build onto that person. But we can't. It takes 2 years to get them out through the diploma, and then they're only a beginner. It's another 5 years before their experience. It's an 8-year qualification. And if you sat them down and said, you won't be any good until you've done this 8 years, they're like, I'm not going to do 8 years. But if every week you say to them, hey, look what you've done fantastic, you've made it, each time they see themselves making progress towards that end. And I think that progress, seeing progress, is really important for a student to stay engaged, to give them confidence, and to keep them interested.
And I think another thing is what I mentioned at the start of the podcast is make them excited, and also make them something they can proud of. It's something they can post to social media, or show it to the family or something like that.
Show it to their family, show it to their friends. They have fun doing it. And I mean, a lot of the things. One of the ideas behind the early win is that they are having fun and don't realize they're developing skills. So that's my idea behind all of this. That we do make sure that they have fun. When they get into Archicad and they build this little house, there are techniques in Archicad where you can build a house in 5 minutes.
Yes.
With doors and windows, just a simple house. And there's one of my YouTube movies where I say, build this house in 21 minutes. That includes importing the site, scaling the site, drawing the property line, importing a plan, scaling the plan. That takes 10 minutes all on its own. And so in the last 10 minutes, you build a 3-bedroom house and get elevations off it and plans off it. That is phenomenally quick. Of course, what you don't see is that you spent 3 days designing the house on the site and thinking about the site, that other sort of site analysis stuff. But it was, still, I think that's important for us to get the students, as I say, to give them skills. They've got to, fundamentally, they've got to be really good at technological skills. But we also have to make each week, each lesson, a quick win.
That means early wins also means that every week they need to have an early win.
Yeah. But if you plan your lessons out, then it's easy to do because every lesson builds on the one previous.
Yes. So let's say, okay, today the task is to win. To do that, that is a win for them. That's a win for them, So I do a lot of repetitions, and my little quick start house. I realized that while it's only got 4 walls, and the students see because it's only got 4 walls and you can draw it so quickly, the students see it as easy and fun. But it's also a skill that they can put into a multi-story building and still get an early, still make it quick to build. If you put in windows, that's easy. You can, I teach them 4 walls, and the building is, 4.8 meters long, 2.4 meters deep. It's got a door, 2 windows. What more do you need? You've learned how to do walls and doors. And the first week is we use the techniques of the space bar in Archicad, to quickly quickly build it. The next week week 1, first week of Archicad is really the interface and stuff. The second week is building the quick house. The third week is we build the quick house again, only this time we add foundations, and we start using some of the tools like multiply, mirror, getting the heights to work out, all that kind of stuff. Because that can be tricky for the student as well to get that thinking going. But again, like I talked about last week when we did my 2D drafting, each week you build on what they already know. So we do a little house, we do a rectangle house. The next week we do the same rectangular house, but a bit more of it. The roof is different. The floor is different. More elevations, a section maybe. We learn to do a section. And so each week we start to get more complex until we get to a point where we start saying, okay, here's a plan of a house, you draw it. Yeah, it's a game plan for them. So you plan, and these children's gaming gender. They grew up playing games. So we make a game plan. So today, level 1, you do that. Okay, you pass level 1, next stage, and that's
you're on level 1.
Yeah, play at your
Player
level
level
one.
2.
Yeah. So this is how I imagined also when I was young and when I was uni, when I was learning architectures, and there is a software by Autodesk. Autodesk. It is called Architectural Desktop. So it is. Yeah, it is now it's obsolete now because it's no more using. However, when I start playing that, I feel like I'm playing games. I just draw lines, and
Mm,
while I'm doing like I'm very happy. I feel proud, and halfway I go and show my aunt or my mom. That mom, I'm doing that. I can see this. I can do these cool things. Because like it's sort of like fun to do it, and when I look back, it's a win for me, and also um, it's maybe my mom or my aunt or my dad, they will very proud of it. His son is doing a house design, and they can see it, right? They can relate to it. Yeah, that's a really good and family bonding also. That we're going to that direction. But that's my personal experience of my early win during my time. I think our students will feel the same thing. I think so.
I, th- I think we've probably covered the topic, so I'll just wrap up
Yes.
and say I think it's really important to have an early win to keep the student interested, to keep them engaged, to make them feel like, to boost their confidence, but also to make them see that they're making progress. If we can make them see they're making progress, they will stick at the course.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for your time, Ethan.
Thank you, Jonathan, and see you next week this time.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.